I'm Evelyn, a woman of 68 years, and just 3 weeks ago my life as I knew it utterly ceased. The faint, sweet decay of wilting lilies still lingered in the air, a melancholic perfume that now forever mingled with the ghost of my late husband Arthur's pipe tobacco. For 45 years, Arthur and I had built a universe together, a quiet, dependable rhythm that had become the very air I breathed. Now that universe had crumbled, leaving behind only the cold, sharp dust of grief. Or home in Willow Creek, a charming, albeit modest, haven where countless memories had been forged, shared laughter, whispered secrets. The comforting clatter of daily life felt less like a sanctuary and more like an empty tomb. Each familiar creak of the floorboards, every gentle beam of morning sunlight filtering through the kitchen window, a space where I had lovingly prepared thousands of meals, now seemed to echo his profound absence, amplifying the crushing silence that enveloped me. I found myself still wearing the same black dress from the cemetery, its fabric a constant, heavy reminder of the finality of goodbye, the weight of sorrow pressed down, making every breath a conscious, arduous effort. My hands, once perpetually busy, lay idle, trembling slightly as I instinctively reached for the forgotten coffee pot on the counter. It was then, amidst the suffocating quietude, that my daughter Serena walked in. Serena was 42, sharp and decisive, with the strong, chiseled jawline she'd inherited from her father. Yet she possessed none of his gentle warmth, none of the comforting presence that had defined Arthur. She carried her designer purse with an air of practiced indifference, placing it on the polished countertop with a crisp, almost aggressive click that seemed to shatter the delicate silence. There was a look on her face I recognized instantly, a chilling absence of compassion that signaled her mind was already made up, rendering my own feelings completely irrelevant. "Mom, we need to talk," she announced, her voice as clear and business-like as the sharp click of her purse. I tried desperately to steady my trembling hands, attempting to pour myself a cup of coffee, though my movements were clumsy and uncertain. "What about honey?" I managed my voice barely a whisper, still lost in the thick, disorienting fog of my profound sorrow. Her reply, when it came, sliced through the hazy quiet like a surgeon's cold, precise blade. "This arrangement isn't working anymore. You living here, in my house." The words hung in, the air between us heavy and suffocating, trapping the very breath in my lungs. My hand, still clutching the fragile ceramic mug, froze mid-air. "Daddy left everything to me, remember," she continued, her gaze unwavering, not bothering to meet my eyes, which were brimming with unshed tears. "And I can't afford to support you anymore." The coffee cup, now a symbol of my shattered equilibrium, slipped from my fingers, plummeting to the tiled floor where it exploded into countless white ceramic shards. The hot, dark liquid spread rapidly across the gleaming surface, an uncontained brown tide that mirrored the chaotic disarray that had so abruptly, so brutally become my entire life. My 68-year-old knees, stiff and protesting, buckled as I instinctively knelt, attempting to gather the broken pieces, but Serena, standing tall and unmoving, didn't even bother to glance at the mess. Her attention remained fixed on some distant, unseen point. "Serena, I pleaded, my voice cracking with desperation and the raw pain of a fresh wound. "It's only been 3 weeks since Daddy died." She offered a dismissive shrug, a gesture that spoke volumes about her indifference to my grief. "I know, Mom, but life goes on. I have my own family to think about, my own bills to pay." Her tone implied that my needs were an inconvenience, an unnecessary burden in her perfectly ordered life. My mind raced, frantically searching for any foothold, any desperate solution to cling to some semblance of dignity and independence. "I have my Social Security," I offered, the words feeling pitifully inadequate even as they left my lips. "It's not much, but I can contribute $800 a month." Serena let out a short, sharp laugh, utterly devoid of humor, a chilling sound that seemed to siphon the last vestiges of warmth from the room. "That doesn't even cover the utilities, Mom." She pulled out her phone, them already scrolling with practiced ease, her attention divided between my rapidly crumbling world and her seemingly more pressing, digital one. "Look, I've been thinking about this, and I have a solution." I stopped my futile attempts at cleaning, looking up at my daughter, the very child I had rocked through countless sleepless nights, the precious little girl who used to seek comfort by crawling into my bed during violent thunderstorms. What kind of solution, I wondered, could she possibly offer that wouldn't feel like another blow? My stomach lurched as she held up her phone displaying a job listing. There's a job, private nursing. The pay is excellent. This man needs round-the-clock care. You were a nurse before you married, Daddy. It's perfect. And my heart, already a bruised thing, hammered against my ribs with renewed anxiety. Serena, I stammered. I haven't worked as a nurse in over 40 years. Medicine has changed. I wouldn't even know how to. She cut me off, her eyes still glued to her screen, dismissing my very real concerns. It's not medical nursing, Mom. It's more like companionship, helping with daily activities. You can do that. I already contacted them. You have an interview tomorrow. I stood up slowly, the ceramic shards still digging into my palms, leaving small, crescent-shaped cuts. But the physical pain was a mere trifle compared to the profound ache that had settled deep in my chest. And if I don't get the job? I asked, though a cold dread told me I already knew the answer. Serena finally lifted her gaze to meet mine, her eyes stark, and unyielding, utterly devoid of the warmth I remembered from her childhood. Her unspoken response was clear long before she finally articulated it. Then you'll need to find somewhere else to live. She offered a shallow, empty apology, a mere formality that held no true remorse. I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't support you forever. The words were a stark, brutal echo of my new reality. I was unwanted, disposable, and utterly, terrifyingly alone. The morning after Serena's ultimatum, a humid dread hung in the air, mirroring the oppressive weight in my chest. My hand, still bearing faint marks from the shattered coffee cup, trembled slightly as I buttoned the modest blouse I'd chosen for the interview. At 68, applying for a job felt like a cruel joke, a surreal twist in a life I thought was gently winding down. I was a widow, a grandmother stripped bare of comfort by the child I had nurtured. The irony was a bitter taste. My home was no longer mine. Each step felt like a forced exodus. The address Serena provided led me far from Willow Creek's familiar streets, through increasingly opulent neighborhoods. My humble car, a relic from Arthur. Modest retirement, felt out of place, a sputtering defiance against the surrounding luxury. I finally arrived at Valerius Manor, a sprawling estate plucked from a glossy magazine. Its driveway alone stretched longer than our entire street, winding through meticulously sculpted gardens. My heart quickened as I approached the massive, ornate front door. How had my life veered so wildly off course? My hand shook as I pressed the heavy brass doorbell. Its deep chime echoed within. The door opened to a stern, impeccably dressed woman, Penelope, Mr. Vance's house manager. Her gaze was direct, assessing, making me feel acutely aware of my worn shoes. Mrs. Evelyn Carter, she inquired, her voice crisp. Please come in. Inside Valerius Manor was even more intimidating. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Artworks vibrated with unspoken history, likely costing more than Arthur and I had earned combined. Penelope led me through endless hallways lined with portraits. As we walked, Penelope's steady, emotionless voice outlined the position. Mr. Vance requires assistance with most daily activities. He's paralyzed from the waist down following an accident 5 years ago. She quoted a figure that made my head swim, far exceeding anything Arthur had ever brought home. We paused before imposing double doors. Before we go in, Penelope cautioned. Mr. Vance can be difficult. He's had 17 caregivers in 2 years. My heart sank. What had I gotten myself into? Penelope opened the doors to a massive library, with sunlight streaming through enormous windows. And there, by a window in a sleek, modern wheelchair, sat a man with distinguished silver hair and aristocratic features, once devastatingly handsome. Mr. Vance, Penelope announced, this is Mrs. Evelyn Carter. He turned his wheelchair as his gaze met mine. A strange sensation washed over me. His eyes were a startling blue, like old photographs, vibrant and full of a profound history. Something flickered across his face. Recognition. Confusion. I couldn't discern it, but it was there. A fleeting ripple. Mrs. Sartor, he said, his voice deep, cultured. Please sit down. I lowered myself, trying to ignore my frantic heart. His scrutiny tightened my chest with an unnamed emotion. A dizzying déjà vu. Penelope tells me you were a nurse, he said, his blue eyes never leaving my face, as if searching. Yes, sir, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Many years ago, before I married, his next statement wasn't a question, but a quiet observation that sliced through my composure. "And your husband recently passed away." A wave of fresh grief. "I'm sorry for your loss," he added, his voice softer, genuinely sympathetic. "Thank you," I murmured, glancing at Arthur's wedding band. "It's been difficult." When I looked up, Roderick Vance was still staring with that intense, desperate expression. "Have we met before, Mrs. Carter?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. "There's something familiar." My blood ran cold, a sudden chill. I forced a polite, fragile smile. "I don't think so, Mr. Vance." I'm sure I would remember, but alarm bells clanged loudly. There was something familiar about him, too. The curve of his mouth, the tilt of his head. My hands trembled, and my breath caught. "Perhaps not," he murmured, unconvinced. "Why do you want this position?" The honest answer was raw desperation. My daughter had thrown me out. At 68, I was too old, too tired, but I had no choice. I straightened my spine. "I believe in taking care of people," I stated. "I always have." Something in his expression softened. "And you're not afraid of challenging situations." I thought of Serena's cold eyes, of cleaning my broken coffee cup while she watched. I thought of the bitter reality of sleeping in the guest room of what was once my own home. "No, sir," I replied, voice firm. "I'm not afraid." Roderick nodded slowly. "Penelope," he said, "would you give us a moment alone?" After Penelope left, Roderick wheeled his chair closer. "Mrs. Carter, I'm going to be frank. I am not an easy man to work for. I'm demanding, particular, and don't suffer fools gladly. But you'll be treated with respect and paid very well." He named a dizzying, almost unreal salary. "However," he continued, "I need someone I can trust, someone who won't gossip about my affairs or treat me like an invalid. Can you be that person?" I looked into those piercing blue eyes, feeling that strange flutter of recognition again. "Yes, Mr. Vance," I affirmed. "Good." He extended his hand, and as our fingers met, a jolt of electricity shot through me. "Welcome to my home, Evelyn." The way he pronounced my name softly, almost reverently, sent a shiver down my spine and made my heart skip a beat. I pulled my hand back quickly, telling myself I was imagining things. I was a widow, a grandmother, with no business feeling anything for this man. But later, as Penelope showed me to my opulent quarters, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling. My life had just taken a turn I was unprepared for, and the way Roderick Vance looked at me made me wonder if I was about to discover something I had spent 48 years trying to forget. That first night at Valerius Manor, sleep refused to come. The opulent room, far grander than anything I'd known, felt like a gilded cage. Every rustle of the silk curtains, every creak amplified the unsettling recognition that had flickered in Roderick Vance's blue eyes. I lay awake, replaying our interview, scrutinizing his words, his gestures. Something in his presence tugged at a distant, half-forgotten corner of my memory, a place I hadn't dared to visit in nearly 5 decades. It felt like a betrayal to Arthur's memory, this inexplicable stirring, yet it was undeniably there, a persistent whisper from a past I had meticulously buried. The next morning, driven by an urgent need for answers, I explored my new surroundings. My duties wouldn't begin until after Mr. Vance's morning therapy. I found myself drawn to the vast library, a space both intimidating and compelling. Rows of books called to me. I stumbled upon a small, unassuming wooden box on a dusty shelf. It wasn't locked, and intuition guided my trembling fingers. Inside, nestled amongst faded photographs and brittle pressed flowers, lay a stack of letters tied with a thin, faded blue ribbon. My breath hitched as I recognized my own familiar handwriting. Letters I had written almost 50 years ago to a young man named Rory. My heart pounded with a frantic, suffocating rhythm. These were the letters I had sent to him after he left Crestwood, promising to return, the letters I had assumed were lost or perhaps simply discarded. My hands shook so violently, I almost dropped them. With a mix of fear and agonizing hope, I untied the ribbon. My own words, youthful and fervent, stared back, a poignant echo from a lifetime ago. As I read, years melted away. I was Evelyn again, not the weary widow, but the hopeful young woman in love with a charming boy. Memories flooded back. The cozy corner diner, the old oak tree by the lake where he'd carved our initials, endless summer evenings dreaming of a future. Then his promise. He'd go, make his fortune, and return. My eyes fell upon the last letter, one I'd never seen. It wasn't from me. It was from him. It was a letter dated months after he left, expressing undying love, longing to return, frustration at not hearing. A letter that, had I received it, would have changed everything. A choked sob escaped as I clutched the letters. He had come back. He had tried. And I, believing he'd abandoned me, had married Arthur, a good, steady man. Tears flowed freely, a torrent of grief for the life I could have had, for love stolen by cruel circumstance. This man, Roderick Vance, the demanding, silver-haired recluse in the wheelchair, was my Rory, the recognition. Once vague, now hit with physical force, leaving me breathless and aching. I closed the box, replacing it exactly as found. I needed time to process this seismic shift. How had he kept these letters? Why no direct contact? Questions swirled a chaotic storm. The answer, I realized, must connect to Penelope. Mention of his accident and the string of caregivers. He was broken, not just physically, but perhaps in spirit, a shadow of the confident young man I'd loved. Later that afternoon, after Roderick's therapy, I approached him. My heart pounded, but a new resolve, born from buried pain, had taken root. I couldn't keep this secret. Mr. Vance, I began, my voice steady. May I speak with you about something personal? He looked up, of course. Evelyn, please. The use of my first name gave me strength. I found something, I confessed, my gaze fixed on his, searching for understanding in the library, a small wooden box with letters. His expression fractured, a subtle tightening around his eyes, a tremor in his hands. Ah, he whispered. Those, a long silence. You read them. I nodded. Throat tight, yes. All of them, even the one you wrote. He closed his eyes for a moment, a profound weariness etching itself onto his handsome, aged face. When he opened them, the blue seemed deeper, tinged with raw vulnerability. I knew it was you, Evelyn, he admitted, voice rough. From the moment you walked in. Your eyes, your kindness. You always had that, he sighed. I kept them, all these years, a fool's hope. I suppose. He then unraveled the past, confirming my worst fears. His ruthless partners saw me as a distraction. They intercepted his letters and mine, feeding him lies. I'd moved on. They even intercepted a letter from my mother confirming my engagement to Arthur, a cruel twist to ensure his focus remained on his empire. He confessed he'd hired private investigators years ago, not to interfere, but to follow my life from a distance. He wanted to know I was safe, happy, even if it wasn't with him. He spoke of watching me from afar, of seeing me with Arthur, and believing that I had found the peace and joy he couldn't offer after the forced separation. His voice broke as he admitted seeing my wedding photos, me smiling, convincing himself. His sacrifice led to my happiness. The bitterness of this revelation was almost unbearable. All those years, all that lost time, built on a foundation of cruel deception. We sat in silence, the weight of nearly 5 decades of unspoken longing hanging heavy. The vast library, once a symbol of solitary wealth, now felt like a vault guarding a heartbreaking secret. The silence after Roderick's confession stretched thick, filled with 50 years of unspoken words, of stolen dreams and altered lives. My mind reeled, trying to reconcile the bitter truth with my comforting narrative. Arthur, my steady, loving Arthur, had been my anchor. Now, even that foundation felt shaken by what could have been. A cold, analytical part of me sought answers. Why had Arthur never mentioned anything? Could he have known? No, Arthur wouldn't have kept such a secret. This cruel deception had to be Roderick's partner's work. Yet, doubt persisted. Roderick finally broke the quiet. His voice, hoarse, tinged with raw vulnerability, found mine. Evelyn, he began, I don't know how to apologize for all the years lost, for the pain this has caused you. His hand, gnarled but strong, reached hesitantly, then dropped. When I saw you walk in, I felt it immediately, the same spark, the same warmth. I knew it had to be you, but I couldn't believe it. His voice trailed off, lost in regret. I felt complex emotions, searing anger at the ruthless manipulation, profound sadness for wasted years, and a flicker of long-buried affection for the young man whose eyes I now saw. Rory, I whispered. Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you come looking for me? The questions were not accusations, but genuine pleas for understanding, born from my enduring pain. He closed his eyes, a muscle twitching. I did, Evelyn, believe me. After your mother's letter confirming your engagement, I fell apart. My work was all I had left. I built this empire, trying to outrun the ghost of what we could have been. Then the accident, 5 years ago. It took everything else. His voice was a ragged breath filled with exhaustion. For a long time, I just existed, a husk, Penelope will tell you. I drove away every caregiver. I hated being dependent, he paused, a bitter laugh escaping. Then Serena called, your daughter, when you stood there. It was undeniable. The revelation of his silent observation of private investigators was a double-edged sword. It proved his enduring affection, yet highlighted the vast chasm of time and missed opportunities. We were two old people, scarred, staring across what-ifs. There was no going back, no reclaiming youthful innocence. We were so young, Rory, I said, voice thick with unshade, so hopeful. He nodded, gaze distant. I know, and I'm so sorry. Evelyn. So very, very sorry. His apology hung in the air. I realized my immediate future depended on this man. The irony was almost unbearable. I, who once dreamed of a life with him, was now his paid caregiver. Professional distance seemed impossible. What do we do now, Rory? I asked. He looked at me. A flicker of the old Rory returning. We build something new, Evelyn, he said. Voice stronger. We can't reclaim the past. That's gone. But we can build a new present. A new future. Together, if you'll let me. His words were an unexpected balm, a fragile promise. For the next few days, our interactions shifted. Professional formality softened, replaced by awkward tenderness. A tentative exploration of our new relationship. I continued my duties, each task infused with deeper meaning. He asked about my life with Arthur. Serena, my grandchildren. I spoke candidly. He listened intently. A silent testament to his long-held desire. In turn, he shared snippets of his life. The ruthless world of high finance, the loneliness of immense wealth without true companionship. He spoke of the accident, not with self-pity, but weary acceptance. He confessed to crushing isolation, the parade of caregivers who saw him only as a patient, never as a man yearning for genuine connection. Penelope, his house manager, had been fiercely loyal, but her professional boundaries unyielding. As days turned into weeks, a delicate routine formed. We spent hours in the library, sometimes reading in silence, sometimes talking. He discovered my love for classic novels. I began to see beyond the recluse to the thoughtful, intelligent man still burdened by regret, but capable of profound depth. He found solace in my presence. His sharp wit, once bitter, now emerged with a softer edge, often with a gentle smile. There were moments, fleeting but potent, when our hands brushed or eyes met, and the air hummed with unspoken intensity. A fragile bridge of rediscovered affection was slowly, tentatively being built across the chasm of lost years. Yet the past was formidable. Young Rory warred with Roderick, confined to a wheelchair, haunted by fate and ambition. One afternoon, as I helped him transfer, he winced. "Damn this useless body," he muttered. "It doesn't define you, Rory," I said softly. He looked up, surprised, then a wistful smile touched his lips. "You always had a way of seeing past the surface." Evelyn, he took my hand, his grip firm always. In that moment, a decades-long wall crumbled. The past was not just a memory, it was a living, breathing part of our present, weaving its intricate tapestry into our unforeseen reunion. My role was more than caregiver. It was a complex dance between duty, healing, and reawakening, a love time couldn't extinguish. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with shadows of what might have been, but a fragile seed of hope began to bloom in my heart. And the subtle shifts in our dynamic, though still nascent, didn't escape Penelope's keen eye. Her gaze, usually impassive, now held an unreadable hint when she observed us. It wasn't disapproval or warmth, but a detached, clinical assessment, as if she were a scientist. I instinctively straightened, maintaining impeccable professional demeanor, a barrier against her scrutiny. Yet beneath this fade, a delicate bond was indeed forming, woven from shared history and newfound vulnerability. Roderick, for his part, seemed to thrive on my presence. His morning mood, once volatile, became calmer, more accepting. He even anticipated my arrival, a faint smile touching his lips. Our conversations grew longer, delving deeper. He spoke of ambition, the relentless drive that consumed his youth, and the gnawing emptiness after fulfillment. He recounted high-stakes deals and ruthless competitors, always with an undercurrent of weariness. Victories tasted hollow. Clearly, the empire he built meant to impress young Evelyn. became his gilded cage, isolating him from human connection he now yearned for. My days were a delicate balance, caregiver confidant, and a woman grappling with a ghost brought to life. I meticulously followed his regimen, ensuring physical comfort but increasingly nurtured his spirit. I encouraged new art forms, music, simply sitting in the garden. These small, seemingly insignificant gestures met with childlike appreciation, revealing a softer side of formidable Roderick Vance, a glimpse of the Rory I loved. One rainy afternoon in the library, scent of old books and damp earth filling the air, Roderick reached for poetry. "There's a poem," he mused. "I used to read it for you." My heart fluttered. This direct bridge to our past wasn't pain-laden. He began to recite, his aged voice carrying youth's lyrical cadence. "How do I love thee, let me count the rays." Elizabeth Barrett Browning. The words, so familiar, so potent with youthful memories, sent a shiver down my spine. I remembered him reading it under the oak tree, his arm around my waist, promise of forever in his eyes. Tears welled, bittersweet nostalgia, not raw grief. He finished, gaze fixed on mine, a silent question. I simply nodded, overwhelmed by the moment's beauty and sorrow. The intensity of these shared moments, however, was occasionally pierced by my sharp reality. "Serena," she called frequently, her voice a mix of strained cordiality and veiled anxiety. She always asked about Roderick's health and mood, but the underlying current was always about his assets, his will. My daughter, the very reason I was here, was a constant reminder of my predicament. The stark contrast between her mercenary motivations and the delicate emotional landscape I navigated with Roderick was jarring. I kept responses vague, offering professional updates, protecting our fragile sanctuary. There was also Penelope. She managed the household with admirable, intimidating efficiency. She rarely spoke, but her eyes missed nothing. I often caught her observing our interactions, a flicker of something in their depths, curiosity, concern. Her loyalty to Roderick was absolute, a silent sentinel. I instinctively understood I was subtly, constantly evaluated. She was the gatekeeper of Roderick. Fragile world, I had to prove myself worthy of his renewed trust. One evening, helping Roderick with his nightly routine, he took my hand. His touch was hesitant, yet warm. "Evelyn," he said, voice softer than ever, "thank you for being here, for not leaving like the others." His vulnerability was disarming. "I needed you." My own heart ached. His raw honesty contrasted the guarded, bitter man I'd met. It was a profound connection, recognizing something deeper. It was a quiet plea, echoing across the decades. This burgeoning intimacy brought challenges. Boundaries blurred. I was his nurse, but also the woman he loved, confided in, the recipient of his tenderness. It was an unanticipated role, a weight of emotional responsibility. Every smile, shared glance, lingering touch was a step onto unknown terrain. I questioned my feelings, dissecting every emotion. Pity, nostalgia, or was that long-buried affection truly reawakening despite decades, despite Arthur's memory, despite Serena's presence? The outside world, Serena's calls and Penelope's watchful eye, felt like a distant hum, an echo of a recent storm. But within Valerius Manor, a different storm brewed, a quieter, personal tempest of rediscovered love, regret, and the daunting task of forging a future from a stolen past. The manor, once my desperate refuge, slowly transformed, becoming a place where old wounds might heal, where a lost connection might bloom again, fragile but tenacious. My presence was no longer just a job. It was a destiny unfolding, a second chance neither of us had ever dared to dream possible. The intricate threads of fate were undeniably weaving a new tapestry. The fragile peace at Valerius Manor was deceptive, a thin veneer over deep currents. While Roderick and I navigated our rediscovered connection, his vast wealth and my unexpected presence continued stirring the waters, both within and beyond the manor. Unspoken questions about Arthur, Roderick's past, and Serena's true intentions remained, waiting to surface. Roderick's physical therapy sessions, once frustrating, now became moments of quiet determination. My encouragement, a blend of professional detachedness and genuine empathy, seemed to reach him uniquely. He'd push himself, grimacing but never giving up. I saw glimpses of his empire-building drive now reclaiming his body. His slow progress was a shared victory, a significant step towards an unarticulated future. Our library conversations deepened. He spoke more freely of his life after Crestwood, the cutthroat finance world, betrayals, and hollow triumphs. He described the loneliness of immense fortune, the constant suspicion. His life of achievement lacked the true intimacy he now craved. He never directly blamed his partners, but bitterness was palpable. I listened, a safe harbor for his confessions. It was a strange role reversal. I, once the naive girl, now offered wisdom from a simple life. Yet, as our connection strengthened, so did external pressures. Serena's calls became more frequent, her inquiries more pointed. No longer disguised, her questions directly probed Roderick, mental acuity, prognosis, and always his financial arrangements. As he talked about his will, Mom, she'd ask, voice falsely casual. My heart sank. Her materialistic focus starkly contrasted the delicate emotional healing at the manor. I instinctively guarded Roderick, protecting him from her intrusions, even as I struggled with my own daughter's transparency. It was a complex web of loyalty and duty, a very fine line I walked. Penelope, the watchful house manager, remained an enigma. Her flawless efficiency and absolute dedication to Roderick ran the household like a well-oiled machine. Yet, an impenetrable reserve rarely wavered. I often caught her observing me, her dark eyes unreadable, constantly weighing my intentions, assessing my impact. I understood. She'd been his steadfast companion through years of bitterness and decline, witnessing opportunistic caregivers. My unexpected connection must have seemed an anomaly, perhaps a threat. I tried to convey genuine care through actions, hoping to earn her trust, but her gaze remained a silent, constant reminder of complex dynamics. One afternoon, arranging flowers, I overheard a snippet between Penelope and a visiting solicitor. Mr. Harrison, their voices were low, but fragments carried update to the will. Mr. Vance's current changes in his discretion. Asterisk is paramount. Will hung in the air, cold and definitive. My hands stilled. A chill ran down my spine. Had Roderick changed his will? What changes? My unexpected presence, tied to his happiness, could easily be seen as an influencing factor by vested interests. Later that week, Roderick asked me to read from his old business journals. Meticulously kept, filled with terse, confident handwriting, detailing deals and strategies, a shrewd, calculating titan emerged. But amidst facts, occasional, almost poetic reflections on ambitions, cost, success, and wealth's fleeting nature appeared. Tucked between pages detailing a hostile takeover, I found a small pressed, 4-leaf clover. My breath hitched. It was the very clover he'd given me, pressed in a textbook, the day he first said he loved me. The sheer, heartbreaking sentimentality, hidden within his professional life, moved me to tears. He had kept it. My voice wavered, but he didn't notice, lost in memories. The clover's discovery, a fragile relic, solidified my own wavering feelings. This wasn't just a job. Not just pity or nostalgia. The affection for Roderick, for Rory, was real, a quiet flame that stubbornly refused to die. But with this reawakened feeling came a profound sense of foreboding. Our precious, private connection was vulnerable. It starkly contrasted his wealth's cold, calculating world and his family's expectations. I found myself increasingly torn. My duty was to Roderick, his well-being, this fragile second chance. Yet I was a mother, and Serena's financial anxieties, however distasteful, rooted in practical concern for her future. The two worlds felt irreconcilable, pulling me in opposite directions. The opulent silence of Valerius Manor, once a sanctuary, now felt like a stage for a quiet drama, where love and longing clashed with greed and the bitter weight of the past. I was no longer merely a witness. I was an integral, unwitting player, and the stakes felt higher daily. The air was thick with unspoken tension, a silent promise of revelations yet to come. The air within Valerius Manor, once heavy with Roderick's bitterness, now hummed with a different kind of tension, unspoken truths and conflicting desires. My caregiving continued, but each interaction with Roderick, each shared glance, gained new layers of complexity. A rediscovered connection, fragile yet tenacious, felt like a secret garden we cultivated amidst the grandeur, constantly under Penelope's watchful and Serena's palpable distant influence. Roderick's transformation continued, slow but steady. He slept more soundly, restless nights became less frequent. His appetite improved. Physical therapy, though challenging, was met with newfound determination. I saw glimpses of his empire-building drive now fully reclaiming his body. These were moments where the formidable Roderick receded and the charming, hopeful Rory emerged. But these private moments were often chilled by outside intrusions. Serena's calls became daily, her voice a brittle melody of false concern. She suggested optimizing his care, thinly veiled attempts to glean financial information. Has he mentioned investments or accounts? She'd asked him, too casual, too insistent. I deflected, but each call left a bitter taste. Her financial motives sharply contrasted the delicate emotional healing at the manor. Penelope remained a constant, silent presence. Her flawless efficiency and zealous dedication ran the household with military precision, yet an impenetrable reserve rarely wavered. I often caught her observing me, dark eyes unreadable, weighing my intentions. I understood. She protected Roderick, having seen countless opportunists. I wished to bridge that gap, but her reserve was a formidable wall. One crisp autumn morning, assisting Roderick in the sunlit conservatory, a large antique wooden chest arrived. Roderick's eyes lit up. Old memories, he mused. Inside were personal effects. Old books, faded photographs, a tarnished silver locket. My fingers trembled. Roderick watched. Open it, he urged. The locket clicked open. Inside, a faded photo of young Rory. On the other, a tiny, intricately braided lock of my unmistakably golden brown hair. I remembered cutting it for him. A silly, sentimental gesture. My breath caught. He had kept it all these years. This was a tangible piece of our shared history, a testament to a love that never died, only lay dormant. My emotional response was profound. It spoke of devotion transcending time and cruel fate, a silent promise kept. It solidified my growing feelings, not pity, not nostalgia. This was a reawakening, a painful but beautiful rediscovery of a deep connection. The revelation was immense, bringing both joy and profound trepidation about the future. The following days were a blur of heightened emotions. The locket remained a silent, powerful symbol. Roderick drew strength from my understanding, becoming more open, more vulnerable. He confessed his loneliness, decades of festering regret. My presence, he said, brought life back into his world. However, intimacy had its shadows. The family solicitor, Mr. Harrison, made another unexpected visit. His hushed conversation with Penelope confirmed my suspicions. Roderick was actively changing his will. The thought, while not surprising, sent a jolt of anxiety through me. If he was altering his will, what role would I, a newly rediscovered love, play in his family's eyes? And Serena, her expectations were a clear present danger. The tension within the manor grew almost palpable. Roderick, in his newfound contentment, seemed oblivious, but I, caught between reawakened feelings and the pragmatic realities of his wealth and family, felt the pressure mount. I was acutely aware of Penelope's scrutinizing gaze and Serena's increasingly demanding calls. The manor, once a fortress of solitude, now felt like a crucible, forging a new reality but testing the very bonds forming. One evening, as Roderick drifted to sleep after our usual evening conversation, I stood by his window looking out at the moonlit gardens. The manor felt vast and silent, but a quiet battle unfolded within. My heart ached with a mixture of hope and fear. I loved Rory, the boy, the man, the sum of his pain and enduring spirit. This love was complicated, fraught with a stolen past and an uncertain future. My journey, intertwined with Roderick's, was no longer just caregiving. It was a journey into a complex family drama where love, money, and secrets collided. The faint scent of jasmine, a beautiful, haunting reminder of all that was lost and all that might still be found. The delicate balance at Valerius Manor, built from rediscovered love and pain, felt increasingly precarious. Roderick's reawakened spirit now drew unwelcome attention. The quiet tension escalated, a silent siege on our fragile sanctuary. The storm I'd foreseen gathered, its eye fixed squarely on Roderick and his immense fortune. Roderick, almost blissfully unaware, was lost in our bond's joy, revisiting old memories, sketching future possibilities with youthful hope. He spoke of restoring the manor, traveling, living out his years in peace. His focus was entirely on us. Physical progress continued, small but significant victories. He'd look at me with tenderness that thrilled and terrified, a powerful, vulnerable connection. But while Roderick floated in happiness, I was aware of Penelope's sharpening gaze and Serena's escalating demands. Serena's calls became a daily torment, evolving into thinly disguised accusations. "Mom, is Mr. Vance lucid enough for major decisions?" She'd imply her questions about his will, assets, mental state were relentless. I heard the cold greed. She viewed Roderick as a vault, me as a key. Penelope's vigilance intensified. Her presence was always at the periphery, a shadow. Her expressions unreadable, but I felt her unspoken judgment, her protective instincts on high alert. She was Roderick's loyal sentinel, seeing my presence as a potential threat. No warmth, only steely resolve. I tried professional distance, but emotional intimacy with Roderick made it impossible. I was caught between protecting him and myself. Visits from Mr. Harrison, the solicitor, became frequent. Hushed conversations with Penelope behind closed doors grew lengthy. The air after his departures was heavy with unspoken implications. I knew Roderick was redrafting his will, and I knew with dread my name or influence likely played a significant role. A secure future was tempting, but being seen as an opportunist, especially by my daughter, was unbearable. One afternoon, Roderick, with rare assertiveness, asked Penelope to fetch a document from his safe. As Penelope left, he turned, eyes alight. "Evelyn," she said, "I'm making arrangements to ensure you're taken care of properly." My heart leaped a mix of gratitude and alarm. "Rory, you don't have to," I began, but he cut me off. "I do, it's the least I can do." Penelope re-entered. Her gaze flickered between us. Intimacy evaporated, replaced by suffocating tension. The next morning, a registered letter arrived, a summons from a prestigious law firm. Serena, represented by them, was initiating legal proceedings to review Roderick's mental competency and recent changes to his estate. My blood ran cold. Competency echoed a veiled attack on Roderick's judgment and my influence. Serena had made her move. The storm had broken. I confronted Roderick, hands trembling. His serene face turned ashen. Lines deepened. The weight of past burdens returned. "Serena," he whispered, disbelief and betrayal. "She would do this." I explained the public scrutiny, the bitter battle. He listened, jaw tight. "She won't win," he stated firm. "We won't let her. The legal battle was brutal and draining." Serena's lawyers painted Roderick as vulnerable, manipulated, his judgment clouded. They implied my presence was a calculated move to gain his fortune. My past was scrutinized, twisted. I testified, defending our connection. It was humiliating, invasive, exhausting. Roderick, however, was formidable. Despite limitations, his mind remained sharp. He faced family, lawyers, court with unwavering resolve. He spoke eloquently of our relationship, lost love, his desire to make amends and ensure my security. He publicly acknowledged his love, a confession rippling through the courtroom. His testimony was a powerful defense. Penelope surprisingly stood by him, silent support. The media descended. News vans, reporters, our private pain fodder for public consumption. My quiet life was a circus. Roderick found the intrusion deeply unsettling. His energy flagged. I nursed and comforted him, reminding him of our enduring connection. The proceedings dragged, a slow, agonizing grind. Serena's determination was fierce, fueled by expectation. The battle was no longer just Roderick's will. It was about control, legacy, and deep-seated family resentments. I was caught in the crossfire, fighting for rekindled love against relentless greed. The manor, once opulent, now felt like a gilded cage trapping us, besieged by the storm. Our love, our second chance, was tested, forcing us to confront the past and painful present. The legal battle became a relentless siege, tearing at our newfound peace. Each day brought fresh assaults, not just from court, but from insidious whispers and judging glances that now seemed to permeate the very air of Valerius Manor. Serena's lawyers twisted every affection into evidence of my manipulation, painting me as an opportunist. This painful, untrue narrative forced me to listen, my composure a thin shield against their barbed insinuations. Roderick, despite his unwavering public resolve, felt the strain deeply. His returned energy waned, replaced by weariness. Physical therapy became a struggle. I saw the toll on him, the profound sadness of betrayal. I spent countless hours by his side, comforting him, reminding him of our truth, our unbreakable bond that defied legal rhetoric and greedy accusations. Penelope, surprisingly, became a silent ally. Her initial suspicions softened to grudging respect, then shared defiance. She witnessed Serena's cruelty, Roderick's suffering. Her loyalty transcended duty, a fierce instinct. She efficiently handled the media circus, deflecting reporters. Her silent courtroom presence was a powerful statement of support. I found myself relying on her quiet strength, a silent nod often conveying more than words. Public scrutiny was relentless. Our lives, mundane to intimate, became fodder for sensational headlines. My private life with Arthur was dragged into the light, distorted, analyzed. Media portrayed me as a cunning seductress preying on a dying man. It was a humiliating ordeal, stripping away my dignity, exposing my vulnerabilities. I yearned for anonymity, but knew it was irrevocably lost. Amidst the chaos, profound moments with Roderick sustained us. One evening, after a grueling day, he took my hand. "Evelyn," he whispered, "thank you for staying." For fighting, I looked into his eyes. "Rory," I replied, voice steady, "I'm not leaving, not now. Not ever." A simple promise, holding the weight of 50 lost years and a new commitment. In that shared gaze, amidst the storm, our love felt more real, more vital than anything else. Serena's lawyers continued aggressive tactics. They used experts' medical jargon and timelines to undermine Roderick, implying predatory design. Their arguments were insidious, aiming to destroy his reputation and my character. I watched quiet fury building at their blatant disrespect for his intelligence, their cynical dismissal of our genuine connection. Roderick, however, surprised them. During cross-examination, despite attempts to discredit him, he remained sharp, articulate, unwavering. He spoke with legal precision and heartfelt emotion, recounting shared youth. He presented the four-leaf clover, his voice poignant, resonating even with some hardened journalists. His testimony was a powerful counter-narrative, painting a man reclaiming lost love, not a manipulated puppet. His public declaration of love was a profound act, a strategic masterstroke, shifting public perception. Yet, despite his powerful testimony, the outcome was uncertain. Legal battles are rarely straightforward, and the sheer wealth involved created an undeniable gravitational pull. Serena's team was fierce, appealing every ruling, delaying every process, aiming to exhaust Roderick. The stress was immense, affecting not just Roderick but me, Penelope, and even the rest of the household staff. One particularly difficult evening, Roderick struggled to breathe, racked by a coughing fit. The stress manifested physically. Penelope and I calmly administered medication. As he settled exhausted, he looked at me, fear in his eyes. "Evelyn," he rasped, "I don't want this to take any more from us. I don't want to lose you again." My heart twisted. This battle wasn't just about money. It was about his life, his remaining time, and or fragile the second chance. I realized winning legally might not be enough. The toll on Roderick was immense. Our love rekindled, battled public scrutiny, familial greed, and the inexorable march of time. I had to find a way to protect him, not just legally but emotionally and physically. The future, once a fragile hope, now loomed as an uncertain and potentially painful continuation of this fight. I would stand by him through every challenge, every accusation, every moment of fear. Our love, once a secret, was now a public declaration, a defiance against a world that sought to tear us apart. The true test of its strength, however, had only just begun. The quiet storm had erupted, and we were now truly in its eye, hoping to weather it together. The legal battle suffocated Valerius Manor. Each court appearance, each humiliating testimony, chipped away at our peace. Serena, driven by entitlement and fear, remained relentless. Her predatory lawyers aimed to dismantle Roderick's competency and my character, turning our private pain public. Roderick, my Rory, bore the brunt with astonishing yet fragile dignity. His public persona parried legal thrusts with sharp wit, defending his decisions and love for me. But privately, stress exacerbated his ailments. I often found him gasping, fear in his eyes. My days blurred, caregiving silent defiance, bracing for Serena's next move. Her calls, now venomous threats, cut deep, poisoning the air. "Mom, you're playing a dangerous game," she'd hiss. "You'll lose everything." And him. Mine, tuck, there's they. Penelope, a stoic guardian, became my unexpected confidant. Her loyalty to Roderick extended to me. She saw Serena's machinations, understanding our genuine connection. She shielded Roderick from media, her silent courtroom presence speaking volumes. One afternoon, Roderick called me to his study, trembling. "Evelyn," he whispered, "there's something. I should have told you years ago, my heart pounded. It's about the letters, he continued. Eyes haunted, after Crestwood I wrote weekly. Then your mother's letter came saying you were engaged. But I sent one last desperate letter begging you to wait. He closed his eyes. I never got a reply, only your mother's final letter. I thought you'd moved on. He opened his eyes filled with sorrow. Years later, after the accident, I hired an investigator. I found out my letters never reached you. Yours never reached me. What are you saying, Rory? My voice barely audible. He looked at me, raw pain in his eyes. My former partners, they intercepted them. All of them. They feared my distraction by you. They manipulated the mail, forged letters confirming your engagement. Even sent one to your mother saying I abandoned you. They systematically destroyed everything. They stole our future. The revelation hit me like a physical blow, a devastating act of sabotage. Arthur's sudden emergence, my mother, as insistence it all clicked. My anger towards Roderick vanished, replaced by searing rage against the unseen hands that orchestrated our separation. Those monsters, I whispered, tears streaming. They took everything from us. Roderick reached for my hand, grip firm. I know Evelyn. I spent decades consumed by work, anger, emptiness. I tried to outrun the ghost, unaware of the true architect. When I found out, it nearly destroyed me. It still does. His voice cracked, a man stripped bare. The confession, devastating, brought liberation. The cloud of misunderstanding lifted. Blame now had a target. This truth bound us tighter, survivors of a cruel, unseen war. The legal battle, Serena's greed, all paled beside this 50-year deception. We talked for hours, piecing together what should have been, mourning stolen years, finding solace in shared understanding. The burden lifted from Roderick was visible. He spoke of confronting his former partners, but reclaiming our bond was his true justice. The next day in court, Roderick's demeanor changed. A renewed fire, a quiet determination beyond defending his will. He spoke with greater conviction, clarity, recounting our true separation. He didn't explicitly name his partners, but references to past betrayals were unmistakable. He fought for his legacy, our love's truth, for vindication. Serena's lawyers, unprepared for his raw honesty, faltered. Even the judge leaned forward. The courtroom fell silent, captivated. A moment of profound truth, a public confession transcending legal arguments, laying bare a hidden tragedy. Proceedings continued, but something irrevocably shifted. The truth, painful, had set us free. The storm raged outside, but within Valerius Manor, within our hearts, a fragile peace settled. We fought not just legally, we fought for reclamation of our stolen history, for the right to live our remaining years in truth and love. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time in decades, unshakable hope bloomed amidst wreckage, promising a future defined by our choices. The public revelation of the intercepted letters, a truth hidden for 5 decades, sent shockwaves. Roderick's raw testimony transformed a legal dispute into a poignant human tragedy, briefly shifting public sympathy. Yet, Serena's legal machine, cold and calculating, was relentless, pushing forward. Roderick, unburdened, found profound, fleeting relief. Regret lessened, replaced by quiet contentment, but court and confession wore him down. Good days now interspersed with fatigue and breathlessness. My role deepened, shield, confidant, partner in a public fight. I managed his health, ensuring rest, medication, nourishment, and curated news showing public support. I was his anchor, reminding him of love fueling our fight. Our shared truth forged in stronger, unspoken bond. We navigated treacherous waters together. Serena, undeterred, hardened her resolve. Hair lawyers discredited his narrative, suggesting memory failure or fabrication under my influence, implying manipulation. Their insidious tactics aimed to cast doubt on everything Roderick said. Penelope remained our steadfast, silent supporter. Her efficiency was a lifeline. She managed the manor, fended off reporters, handled legal documents. More importantly, she subtly orchestrated a support network. I caught her observing me with undeniable respect. Our shared efforts forged an unspoken alliance. The legal proceedings drained us. Depositions, interrogations, expert testimonies, a monotonous grind. Public sympathy faded, replaced by hunger for drama. Media camped outside, dissecting every detail. Our private agony was publicly dissected, a suffocating existence. One intense day, Serena took the stand. Her chilling composure painted her as a devoted daughter, concerned for her father, victimized by an opportunistic outsider. She even shed rehearsed tears. Watching my own daughter lie, twisting reality for financial gain, was a profound, unique pain, a betrayal cutting deeper than any legal maneuver. Roderick's legal team was prepared. They presented compelling evidence of his mental acuity, medical evaluations, and associates' testimonies. They subtly highlighted Serena's focus on inheritance, contrasting it with Roderick's desire for happiness and amends. The battle became a stark delineation: love versus greed. As proceeding neared their end, a strange calm settled over Roderick. He had spoken his truth, fought his fight, publicly acknowledged our love. Whatever the outcome, he seemed to find profound inner peace. He spent more time in the gardens, enjoying sunlight, holding my hand, contemplating vastness. He spoke less of court, more of small joys. Penelope's bread, the sun, my presence. However, this quiet serenity was fragile. One evening, helping him, his breathing became shallow, ragged. A faint blue tinge appeared around his lips. Panic seized me. This was severe. Penelope was instantly at my side. We administered emergency oxygen, called the doctor, but his struggle was profound. He looked at me, eyes wide, with a silent plea. I held his hand, whispering love. The ambulance arrived, sirens jarring. The manor became frantic. As Roderick was stretchered out, his gaze fixed on mine, he whispered, "Evelyn, my love." The words, ragged but clear, were a final affirmation. I rode with him, clutching his hand, the locket pressed to my chest. The hospital became our new battlefield. Serena arrived, lawyers in tow, a mask of concern. The fight over his life and estate continued. Doctors spoke grimly of critical condition, a failing heart, a body worn by stress and the legal battle. In those agonizing hours, tethered to his fragile mortality, the battle and fortune seemed meaningless. All that mattered was Roderick, his breathing, his faint pulse. My love, rekindled, was stripped bare to its purest form, a desperate yearning for his survival, for more time. The truth had set us free, yes, but its consequences, the battle it ignited, now threatened the very life we fought to reclaim. The future, promising peace, hung by the thinnest of threads.